video capturing hotel worker Kenny Mitchell in happier times, making what happened on April 13th even tougher for Jashawn Clark.
You're hearing one side of the story and not the other, but the side of the story you're hearing is not true.
Clark, Mitchell's friend and co-worker, says he was one of the first to run to Scott Hapgood's hotel room after his daughters called for help. Hapgood accusing Mitchell of attacking him at knife point at this five-star resort. Clark says he walked into the room and saw Mitchell pinned to the ground, struggling to breathe.
So Mr. Hapgood's left forearm was across Kenny's neck, chin area this way, and Mr. Hapgood held Kenny's right hand across his body like this.
Authorities listed the 27-year-old's cause of death as suffocation. After facing a judge on the island Thursday, the father of three proclaimed his innocence.
Someday I will be able to tell the real story in a legal setting. The sooner that day comes, the better.
Now, if Scott Hapgood's convicted of manslaughter here at the Maluana Resort, island officials say it's still too early to know the punishment. Meanwhile, he's due back in court here September 9th.
Between a mystery illness and vaping taking a deadly turn.
Unfortunately, yesterday we received a report of a death of an adult in someone who was recently hospitalized with severe respiratory illness.
The CDC is on the ground in Illinois as the number of people hospitalized has doubled there in the past week. 193 cases are now being investigated in 22 states, mostly in teens and young adults. The symptoms? Cough, shortness of breath, and fatigue. Doctors on alert, asking patients if they've been vaping.
It's not sure whether it is a particular compound, a contaminant, it's nicotine, it's THC, nobody really knows.
According to the CDC, many patients, but not all, have acknowledged recent use of products with THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, which vaping advocates say is the real problem. 31-year-old Sean Bills is in a medically induced coma in Utah. His wife has turned over all his vaping paraphernalia to the local health department to try to help find a link in an increasingly dire search to find answers and prevent more deaths.
In the crosshairs of America's feud with China, Peerless Precision near Boston, a defense and aerospace contractor. The trade war has sent the cost of steel and aluminum soaring, cutting company profits in half.
If I have to raise prices, there's a really good chance that I'm going to lose that job the next time around and possibly the customer.
Wall Street today went into a nosedive with Apple and automakers hit hard after China said it will retaliate against U.S. tariffs with tariffs of its own on American-made products, targeting American-made cars, farm products, oil, and clothing, making them more expensive in China. Meanwhile, the National Retail Federation is rejecting President Trump's demand that American companies leave China, writing, "It is unrealistic for American retailers to move out of the world's second largest economy, as 95% of the world's consumers live outside our borders."
The trade war is not working. It's doing significant damage to our economy. It risks running the economy into a ditch.
Tonight, U.S. business is holding its breath.
There's no end date to this, as far as I'm aware, which is even worse. Everyone's on the edge of their seat right now, waiting.
On the horizon, while some U.S. companies have started looking for other places like Vietnam to produce their products, many businesses warn a move could be time-consuming and costly, threatening to put them out of business. The president also lashing out at his hand-picked Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, tweeting, "My only question is, who is our bigger enemy, Jay Powell or China's Chairman Xi?" That swipe after Powell today didn't rule out future interest rate cuts, but suggested the central bank was limited in what it could do to buffer the president's trade policies. Mr. Trump's repeatedly ignored the long-time tradition that a president respect the Fed's independence.
Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve have totally missed the call. Jay Powell's made a big mistake.
The latest clash hours before President Trump heads to the G7 summit with allies waiting, already anxious about a slowing global economy. Peter Alexander, NBC News.
President, new positivity this morning about trade talks with China.
The vice chairman of China came out that he wants to see a deal made. He wants it to be made under calm conditions, and the longer they wait, the harder it is to put it back.
The outreach from Beijing may be a step toward ending the trade war that's hurting farmers in America and roiling the markets on Wall Street.
And they want to get something done. Now, maybe it won't get done, But this is the first time I've seen them where they really do want to make a deal.
It comes after the president seemed to soften his stance on China Sunday, suggesting he had some regrets.
Yeah, sure. Might as well. Might as well.
You have second thoughts about escalating the war?
I have second thoughts about everything.
But hours later, White House aides appeared to have second thoughts about those second thoughts, insisting the president's remarks were misinterpreted. Despite divides with the president on trade, leaders of the G7 have been treading gingerly, hoping to avoid a blow-up like they've seen at past summits. And even an unexpected visitor hasn't seemed to set the president off. The Iranian foreign minister, invited by the French as President Emmanuel Macron tries to show he's making progress on his push to de-escalate tensions over Iran's nuclear program.